Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Thank you, Marty White. Hi, folks. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us this morning. Remember, every Saturday from 10 till noon, we come to you through your local AM and or FM radio stations across the nation and also at watchbobbylive.com. So, give us a ring. 888 Car Clinic is the number. Miss Jan will take your calls. Yep, she's back in the house. Great to have her back. 888-227-2546. That's 888 Car Clinic. She'll take your call, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. A great show for you lined up today. Some really interesting information and a little information about Dieselgate. You know, the VW. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by Stant Corporation, makers of the Superstat. Reach for the thermostat professional installers like I prefer. Learn more about the Superstat and Stant's entire collection of aftermarket caps and thermostats. Where? At stant.com. Also, proud to say this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by PowerFrame Grid Technology. Batteries with PowerFrame technology are stronger, more durable, and keep you going. Look for the PowerFrame logo on the outside and know that you're getting true strength on the inside of your next new battery. Okay, sit back, ride along with me this hour, and get ready for a terrific program. I'll answer your car questions and give you a little insight as to what's coming up next in the world of cars. In fact, we're going to hear from Jim in Detroit about the latest in automotive technology. Don't touch that dial. When it comes to your car battery, you expect it to work. Turn the key and go. Thanks to PowerFrame Grid Technology, you can count on your battery to be there start after start. Batteries with PowerFrame Grid Technology provide superior cranking power with up to 70% better electrical flow than other grid designs. Look for the PowerFrame logo on the outside of your next battery. It means true strength on the inside. Visit PowerFrame.com to find a retailer near you. That's PowerFrame.com. What can open and close hundreds of times a day on your vehicle? Your vehicle's thermostat, which performs two critical jobs: accelerates engine warm-up and regulates engine operating temperature. With so much at stake, like engine wear, fuel economy, emissions, and cold weather drivability, choose a thermostat professional installers choose. Stant. Stant's Superstat is premium grade and features a heavier gauge stainless steel housing and larger heat motor for optimal temperature control. For more Superstat advantages, visit Stant. automaxrtfolders.com. And now to the Car Clinic inbox. Mike writes, Bobby, driving in Seattle's rainy weather, I've lost traction in my car enough times to scare me. What tires should I consider when it's time to replace mine? Mike, if you're losing traction, now may be the time to replace your tires. A terrific choice is General Tire's Ultimax RT43 with its peak anti-slip design technology, which increases the number of biting edges for traction on slippery roads. And you won't have to guess or measure tread depth when it's time to replace these tires. The Ultimax RT43 features an integrated replacement tire monitor, which clearly reads replace when a tire change is needed. And one more cool feature of the Ultimax RT43, Early Warning Visual Alignment Indicator, which extends tire life by visually identifying vehicle misalignment. For more information about the Ultimax RT43, go to GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, okay, let's get started this morning. Good morning, folks. I hope that you're having as much fun as we are in the studio here. Well, actually, I'm having fun at Miss Jan's expense, so I'm not sure that's a good thing to do. She looked through this window from the control room into the studio here with that, don't say that again. So sit back and relax and ride along with me. Speaking of riding along with me, a quick story for you to share because I shared it with the crew this morning. My first experience with automobiles, yes, I can remember. I was 2 months old. No, not really. I was 2 or 3 years old. I forget now. But I was riding in the back seat. We were visiting friends in North Carolina, Somerville, North Carolina, I think it was, and South Carolina. And the bottom line is we were traveling very, very slowly over this red clay road, and I was in the back seat with my brother. And my mom and dad were in the front seat, and I was moving the handle of the car to determine how much I had to move the handle to make the door open, like a trigger, quick trigger or whatever you call that in the gun, hair trigger, yeah. So I would pull the door up, and I would see that it would open, and then I would close it, and I would do it again, and finally, after I learned how far I had to pull the handle, I leaned out, and I fell out of the car. And we were going, I don't know, 2 miles an hour because we were looking at the terrain and this beautiful country, and it was a red clay back. I never forget it. And I fell out, and a few seconds later, or a minute, or a long time for me, it was like an hour, my mom turned around to my brother, and my brother was always one of those kind of matter-of-fact, kind of a carefree kind of a guy, and turned around to, his name was Kerry, where's Bobby? And my brother said he fell out of the car. What? And there I was, a little fat little 3-year-old running down the road, crying with my tears out, and my dad stopped the car and came and picked me up and brushed me off, put me back in the car, and my mom spanked my brother, which didn't hurt him. You could never hurt my brother. He was always bigger and badder and stronger than I. But that was my first experience, and I lived to survive. So I was always inquisitive about automobiles, and it hasn't changed. And here I am, much older than 3 years old, but I do remember that. Let's go to Detroit and talk with Jim. And if you've got a story that you'd like to share about your first, maybe your first car, or maybe if you fell out of a car and live to talk about it and can joke about it, that's really fun. In the meantime, 888 Car Clinic, Miss Jan will take your call. Tell her, call her Tina, and she'll. No, don't do that. There I go again. 888-227-2546. Sir Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. I wouldn't mess with Miss Jan, Bobby, or you might be sweeping floors. Or
I'll
sweep
tell
you
you.
with the floors.
I'll tell you what. If she told me to sweep the floor, hey, she does everything around here. You know, she gives orders, she pays bills, she writes the check. Need I say more? She writes the checks, right? So everybody gives her the her territory. So
Yeah, I would say so. Now, an unusual experience I've had in cars. I've had many. I was in a couple of bad car accidents where God only let me get scratches, and I lived to tell about the car was totaled about 3 times, different cars.
well, I won't go there, but I did the same thing. I ran off the end of a drag strip running 130 miles an hour and with no brakes on the car, and the throttle was stuck wide open. And I just steered toward some real thick hedges, and I thought that'll stop me. And well, that was the old side of the drag strip, and it was really funny because on the old side of the drag strip there was the return lane, and they abandoned it, then moved it to the left side of the drag strip. And when they did, they had to abandon the return lane because it was muddy and it had deep ruts, and the car that I was driving flipped end over end. It was a 55 Thunderbird, the top sheared off of it, and it landed upside down, and I didn't get a scratch on me, but the first question I asked when I was laying on the ground, what kind of time did I turn? What was the ET? Anyway, over to you. Let's talk about cars, and let's have some fun on today's, because that's where we're headed here, folks.
All right, Bobby, let's have some fun. And I always thought it was fun when you got a lady to ride in the car with you, and then we'll just leave that one drop completely. However, the ladies are making the choice of what cars to buy, just like the men. They might be more economical in their first budget from their first job, but later on in life, they're just like us guys. They want to, if they can afford it, they're going to get a luxury car. They buy 50% of the cars in around the world. They say with jobs and designing of cars, they're becoming 80% responsible. So the women are stepping up in the car field.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And in the service industry, the numbers, as my last recollection of the numbers, are 65% of cars that are taken to automotive repair shops for repair are taken in by women. And I first doubted that. And then I ran some stats on it, and sure enough, we have a tremendous number of women that come in. And at one time, Jim and folks, there was and there still may be, if you're not into this business, you wouldn't know the difference, but it was a thought about, well, maybe we should just have a shop for women only. And so we asked our lady customers, our women customers, do you want a shop for? She said, no, I just want you to talk to me straight. I don't want you to talk down to me. I want you to give me the information. And quite candidly, Jim, I'd rather deal with a woman at the service desk than I had a man, because a woman will ask questions because they know they don't know. It's the men that think they know that is where they come in and say, my car's overheating, put a thermostat in it. Now Stant may love that, but the bottom line is, rarely have I seen a thermostat cause an overheating issue. It's usually a fan or a radiator or, heaven forbid, a head gasket. So that's kind of the way it is in the industry. So what we do is we just treat every customer as though they're friends of ours, and we give them the information for their cars. We're big on inspections, and we give them the list. And so you can come in for an oil change, which we don't have an oil change per se. We have an inspection with an oil change, and we'll write a laundry list on the car, and people will, well, I just came in from the oil change. But let me tell you this way, if we see something the car needs and we don't tell the owner of the automobile that there's a problem, who's to blame? We are. It's up to the owner to decide and determine whether or not they want to get that problem fixed now or later. And the great news is that we don't put any pressure. We have a software that's RO Writer. It's the best that we chosen, and we love it. And we can tick the calendar, and we can help the car owners determine when to do what and we'll send you cards in the mail, and you don't have to worry about it. So you can get a quote-unquote inspection with oil change, and then if you need a transmission service or you have a leaking oil pan, we can bring it back in 2 months from now, 2 days from now. So it's no big deal. What else did you bring for us? It's your turn.
Okay, my turn. Mayburn with GM, they're trying to get people to have a car for a day, have it for an hour. And if they have it just for an hour or a half hour, it can take you from Detroit to the airport, and all you pay on your bill is $3.50.
Yeah.
You can't get a cab for that price.
Well, yeah, I know. I've seen it on television where they drive down the street and they say, "Okay, you owe me 23 cents," because that was you're paying for the block that you're going. But there's as this will evolve, as autonomous cars and Lyft rather that GM is involved with, and Uber now with their in Pittsburgh, they have Ubers putting autonomous cars on the road. Of course, there's always a driver in there, but you're going to see that someone has to pay for the upkeep. Even the autonomous cars, and I don't want to particularly get into that because we've done that a lot, but the bottom line is there's no free ride, there's no free lunch, and the same insurance costs, the same maintenance cost of an automobile go to the owner of the automobile. So whoever's enjoying the ride has to pay.
Well, the biggest debate I get with people over autonomous cars, when is it coming out? 3 years, 10 years? And until they're connected cars, recognizing other cars more on the road, that's going to slow the introduction down, is the latest feedback I get from the industry.
Yes, sir. And I have a report a little later in the program from a White House policy that puts the U.S. On the road to self-driving cars of the future a little sooner than we think, because number one, on top of everything that you mentioned about how the sticks have to align and the blocks have to align, the government has to make federal rules and regulations for all 50 states, because you can't have one state having one set of rules and another state having another set of rules. If you remember, back in the mid-'70s, when the emissions first came out, it was California that really, of course, they had the worst smog, and Dallas and New York. I mean, you look up in the sky and you didn't see the sky, you saw smoke. And so they started a move toward emissions, and the Clean Air Act came out. And then we would work on cars here in the state of Florida that came from California that were totally different from anything we'd ever seen before. I mean, at that time, the manufacturers were putting Band-Aids on cars to make them sellable in California. Jim, stay right there. And Sean, I see Sean's on the line as well. Folks, you can get in now, 888-227-2546. We're going to come back, finish our conversations, and move on to Europe.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Need new tires? Between now and October 15th, General Tire is making trails, and you can receive a Visa rebate card for up to $70 with the purchase of 4 qualifying General tires. From the ultra-high-performance G-Max AS03 to the all-new Grabber X3 for extreme mud, dirt, and rock, General Tire has a tire that'll help get you there. For more information, drive over to GeneralTire.com. Remember, with General Tire, anywhere is possible. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Don't knock it. Let's talk octane and ethanol. Octane rating is the standard measure of the anti-knock index, or AKI, of a motor fuel. The higher the octane, the less the knock. Why? Higher octane fuel, like pure ethanol at 113, can withstand higher cylinder pressure and higher temperature before detonation, which is an uncontrolled explosion within the cylinder that causes engine knock and damage. Ethanol not only protects against detonation, but also ethanol facilitates faster and lower temperature controlled combustion at the flame front. the place in the engine where the spark plug ignites the fuel. The result is less knock, more power, and better performance. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us today. We're talking with Jim in Detroit, and then we're going to go to Sean in Florida, actually. I don't know how close it is to our stomping grounds. We're come to you from Pensacola, Florida, the beautiful Gulf Coast. As long as Ivan's not around, that is. Ooh. Don't say don't even go there. Miss Jan will take your calls at 888-227-2546. And Kevin, I want to say this. Kevin's our producer. Thank you so much for choosing that spot about seats and child seats and seat belts as our PSA coverage for this week, because a little later in the program we're going to have Tarika Wheeler, and she's from safekids.org. And and I've got some questions for her with regard to kids that are left in cars and seat belts and those sorts of things. But in the meantime, we'll go back to Jim. Jim, I'm going to turn the mic to you for the next go-round.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much. It's the argument of the caveat in 2025 to get cars at 54.5. However, the industry said if they're too strict on that, you could get charged $5 per tenth of a mile if your car doesn't meet that standard to the manufacturer. Let's take it into another perspective. The electric cars, in GM's case, have been known with the generator to get as much as 106 miles out of a gallon of gas. Now, we're worried about the caveat on a total gas car getting 54. I find that interesting because I think electric cars with the new batteries and better batteries, and most people don't always drive their car across the country. They can always rent an electric car when they get to their location.
There's no doubt, given the numbers of OEMs that are building electric cars and EV cars and offering them. In fact, VW is headed in that direction and headed away from diesel cars. I've got a report on that a little bit later in today's program. So there's no doubt that to meet the 54.5 CAFE mandate at 2025, the manufacturers are jumping through a lot of hoops. And to that end, they continue to elevate the technology on the ICE, the internal combustion engine, in and of itself. And there's a 15, and I give reports every week of an extra 15%, an extra 17% of efficiency. That the latest was a CV-T, which is is a VC-T. They use those acronyms, but it's variable compression turbo that Infiniti has come out with, and it's one of my favorite new finds of this year so far, where they're changing the ratio of compression from 8-to-1 so they can use a turbocharger to 14-to-1 for cruising down the road so they can have a more efficient engine under no load. And I say no load, no turbo pressure. So
won't it allow some coasting that'll take advantage too to better mileage?
Absolutely. Well, anything else for us? We'll move on, sir.
All right. right, that's it for today. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you, Sir Jim. Always great to hear from you. Have a safe week, a great week, and take care. And now we'll go to Sean. Sean, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thank you so much for holding.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, I've got a 2005 H2 Hummer.
Okay. Yes.
Every time I crank the motor when it's cold in the morning, the low pressure indicator comes on. It stays about zero, the pressure does, and then a little bit later, the pressure comes up and the light goes off.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out, is the oil pump going out, or is there, what do you think the problem could be?
I know what the problem is. It's not the oil pump at all.
Okay.
So for $5 in the mail, Sean, have a local shop or the dealer remove the oil pan, have them to replace the oil pump pickup tube assembly with O-ring. And
With
then,
O-ring.
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. That is a common issue of that engine, and that is an O-ring. And what's happening is that it's actually that engine is drawing air. We have repaired many of those, and I'm proud to say that it was my crew that actually found that issue with a particular vehicle. And a lot of those engines that have the oil pump driven by the crankshaft have also, if they have a variable displacement. Does your Hummer have variable displacement?
I'm not a mechanic, so I don't really know that.
Okay, so well, you have the what size engine? You have the V8, of course, right?
It's a 6.0, yes, sir.
Oh, it's a what now? 6.0, yeah.
The
right.
6.0?
Okay, yeah. If you have the variable displacement, there is also a screen that is located in the oil galley in the back of the block that screens and filters the oil going to the upper part of the engine. And that has caused damage to many a lifter and General Motors, and you have to pull the heads to get the lifters out. And so
that's where I was going next, because I've got a lifter ticking.
Sure. Well, the first thing,
when I changed the oil and put the stuff in it to stop ticking, it'll go away. About a month and a half later, it comes back.
Right, but have you ever smoked a cigarette and had a hole in the side of the paper and it drew air, not smoke?
No, I've never smoked.
Well,
but I know what you're saying.
Okay, so that's exactly what's happening, because the oil is down in the bottom of the pan, the tube is in the bottom of the pan or the pickup screen, and then the tube runs up to the bottom of the block, and there it plugs into the bottom of the block with a bolt or two to hold it in, and there's an O-ring, and then from there it goes and feeds the oil pump. Well, the oil pump has to pull that oil up, and it will draw air, especially when it's cold, because it has no liquid to seal it, no liquid oil. And then finally, after you get the engine warm, then the oil pressure will come up. But you will find probably a 40% increase in oil pressure overall, even at its best right now, and you will eliminate that problem going in. So just have the oil pan, and with a four-wheel drive, you'll have to remove the front differential. So there's going to be a difference in labor from the standard two-wheel drive, like a Tahoe, to a four-wheel drive like your Hummer. So, but the bottom line is, you're going to spend less than $1,000, and you're going to fix an engine, and you're going to get another 100,000 miles out of that car.
Gotcha. Well,
Okay.
where you located? I'm in Pensacola.
We're on Davis Highway. Oh, I didn't know you were in
Highway.
Pensacola. Yeah, we fix a lot of those, Sean. So,
Yes, sir. Okay.
yeah,
I'll
very
come back
good.
to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Very interesting. In fact, we had a gentleman to call from Mobile that was tuned in to one of our stations in Mobile that had an oil pressure issue with his vehicle. I forget what year it was, 07 I think, but same engine and the same problem. And he called back and, well, I tried this, and now I took it to the shop, and they said I got to pull the front of the motor apart and put an oil pump in it. I said, no, you don't. Ultimately, I'll be darned if he didn't bring his vehicle over here, and of course we fixed it, and now we're friends. His name is Bettix. Anyway, I want to share with you this White House policy about the self-driving vehicle, because I mentioned that earlier when Jim was on the line with us, and I'll invite you to call 888-227-2546. The government's introducing a policy, folks, for self-driving cars designed to get safe driverless cars onto the American roads sooner than later, as I said. Regulations for autonomous vehicles have so far been determined, by a variety of often inconsistent or even non-existent state laws and rules, and the new federal automated vehicles policy will finally begin to set up a national framework for not just putting algorithms in the driver's seat, but eventually doing away with that seat altogether. And what the bottom line is that they're supporting a guidance system that provides a standardization of self-driving policies across all 50 states, as I mentioned when Jim was on the air a little earlier. This is really interesting because, as I said, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as part of a partnership with Volvo, and Lyft's co-founder made the bold prediction that private car ownership in cities could be over by 2025. I don't know that I have mixed emotions about do we. Of course, I shouldn't, because we're always going to have cars to drive. Because number one, everyone can afford a new car, and the average age of a car on the market today is 11.5 years. So, it's not like we're going to, let's do technology and we're going to all be out of cars and we're going to have to call and get a Uber or call Uber or call and get a autonomous car. That's not the case at all. But there are certain areas where you don't, in the city, in Manhattan, there are 25,000 cabs. Of course, if I were in the cab business, I would be a little concerned. Just like if I were in the oil business, I would be concerned that my 100-plus year monopoly on crude and petroleum and gasoline is threatened by ethanol. Make no mistake about it, that's where most of the myths come from with regard to ethanol is from the oil companies. You can't blame them. We'll take a call from Stan. Stan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
A beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
Morning.
Yes, sir.
I told Jim that you like to hear encouraging news. I bought a 16 2X5.
I cannot hear you, sir. I hear a lot of echo.
Well, I don't have.
There you go. That's better.
I don't have my speaker on or anything. Echo. Are you okay now?
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay. Last December, I bought a Mazda CX-5, and now I've got about 8,000 miles on it. I just took a 1,500-mile trip on it, and I just find this car to be absolutely everything that I expected and wanted. It is a great road car. The little rascal will tow about 6,000 pounds, 2,000-pound tow weight. It's on the road, it got 32 to 35 miles per gallon.
Wow.
Quite comfortably. The 6-speed is just flawless. So this is my rave. And then the upgraded infotainment system is almost up to CarPlay standards.
Well, almost up to CarPlay standards. And folks, what he's talking about there is he's talking about, and Stan, we're still a little hard to hear you, sir. He's talking about the CarPlay as Apple CarPlay. Which I'm most disappointed that I can't plug my Apple Siri and my Apple phone into my car, but it's not compatible, which I really think that would solve a lot of the issues that I have with my navigation system, which is kind of antiquated and quirky and what have you. But I'm so glad, Stan, that the CX-5 it has worked well for you. Indeed, they make great automobiles, and when I think of the partnership of that and Ford Motor Company, I think of very interesting. Tarika Wheeler is with us, the Director of Programming for Safe Kids. We're going to come back and take her call next. Don't touch that dial, folks. We're going to provide some more feedback this week on the Diablo Sport Intune i2 Performance Programmer. After a very easy installation, we were set to tune and test. The improvements were drastic and so obvious. Throttle response increased dramatically, and our tune generated more low and mid-range torque. Cold start and off-the-line response was crisper and cleaner. The transmission shift points and quality stepped up a notch, too. Wonder how your vehicle's iTune is performing? The i2 provides an easy way to find out. It actually retrieves diagnostic diagnostic data you can export to a PC and play back on Diablo Sport's data viewer logging software. Regardless of your vehicle, you can buy additional licenses to tune any vehicle supported by Diablo Sport. We'll have more information about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, drive to DiabloSport.com, and while you're there, check out the sizzling savings rebate going on through August the 31st, where you can receive money back on the Intune i2 and Trinity Performance programmers. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Miss Jan will take your calls, put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. Call with your car questions at 888 Car Clinic. With us on the air today is Tarika Wheeler. And Tarika is the program director of Safe Kids Worldwide. Tarika, what a pleasure. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for having me today.
Yeah, you know, for our listeners and viewers and for my information, of course, safety on the road is important to everyone, whether we drive or are driven or have friends and family who do. So why do we need Car Passenger Safety Week? What are the numbers telling us with regard to child injuries and fatalities when it comes to car crashes, and who are the victims?
You know, that's such a great question, Bobby. Child Passenger Safety Week is so very important, and each year we have this observance in September. You know, car crashes are the leading cause of death for children here in the United States. You know, more than 2,600 children under the age of 13 are unfortunately involved in a car crash every day. That's one child every 33 seconds. So this is a huge problem, and it's one that we know that we can fix. You know, we know that car seats can save lives. We know that car seats being used in a car crash actually can reduce the risk of a fatal injury by 71% for infants and by 54% for toddlers. So during Child Passenger Safety Week, it's an opportunity for communities to really learn more about child passenger safety and for safety advocates and certified child passenger safety technicians to work one-on-one with families to educate them about how to keep their kids safe in cars.
So, Tarika, if you would, on the numbers that you just quoted, are those numbers getting better or are they worse with regard to the history of the facts and the stats? And in what direction are we going? Hopefully up and to the right.
You know, between 2014 and 2015, and that's the latest data that we have, there was a 10% increase in fatal crashes involving children under the age of 13. So we're really not doing a great job, and we want to, make sure that parents really understand the importance of having their child in a car seat that's the correct car seat and that is installed correctly. 6 out of 10 car seats are installed incorrectly, according to a 2015 study from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. That's 59%. So it's an issue that we're seeing that we're actually on the rise, and we want to reverse that trend and start to see fewer and fewer fatal crashes that are involving young children.
We're talking with Tarika Wheeler, Program Director for Safe Kids Worldwide. Tarika, you mentioned about car seats on your website, which you can share with our Car Clinic listeners and viewers. Are there some specific directions? I mean, how does a person learn the proper way to install a seat in an automobile?
Yeah, that's a great question. We hear from parents all the time that installing car seats can be challenging, and we are really excited that this week, during Child Passenger Safety Week, in partnership with General Motors, we have released the Ultimate Car Seat Guide, and it offers easy-to-understand tips on how to choose and use your child's car seats. Our experts here at Safe Kids really have taken the time to share best practices and give kids really the best protection that we can. We've had over many years of experience, nearly 2 million car seats checked at Safe Kids car seat check events with our partner General Motors, and we've taken that information and we've put it into this ultimate guide for parents that they can use.
So, Tarika, let's shift gears. I heard just last week someone talking about using second-hand car seats. I'm not sure that I would opt for that option, but is it safe for people to use second-hand car seats that have maybe stayed in the same family or that have been acquired through eBay or other sources?
That's a great question. If you're using a family member's car seat that its history, then it's okay. We want to make sure that the car seat has not been involved in a crash. We want to make sure that all of the labels are on the car seat and the car seat has not been recalled. And so if you can track that history of the car seat and you're getting it from a trusted family member, absolutely. But if you're not, then we recommend that you purchase a new car seat that's best. And this will ensure that you have the car seat that has the latest technology, all the parts, labels, instructions, and they'll be able to install it correctly for their child because they have all that information. Unfortunately, sometimes when you receive a secondhand car seat, you don't know if it is expired, you don't know if it's been recalled, you don't know if it's been involved in a crash.
Well, that makes perfectly good sense to me. I know that GM has, whenever they come out with a new model automobile, there's always, even if it's the same line, there are always upgrades and bills to not only the security system of that vehicle, but to the MPG and the torque and the safety features within the automobile. So for my nickel, Tarika, I would opt always for a brand new seat. That way I can read the directions. I can determine that I've got the latest and best technology. So for our Car Clinic listeners and viewers, folks, I would opt for, even with a family, I would opt for the new seat because you are more assured that you've got something that hasn't been used, that hasn't worn parts. Tarika, before I let you go, you mentioned the Ultimate Car Seat Guide. Share with our Car Clinic listeners where they can find that guide, and if it's downloadable, how's it delivered?
Sure, that's a great question. So the Ultimate Car Seat Guide, it's free. It's easily accessible from your phone, your tablet, your computer. You just go to ultimatecarseatguide.org. And there are 2 ways to get safety tips. Personalized information is available for your child. There will be personalized tips that you can receive when you put in your child's age and your child's weight. And that's great because parents want to know specifically, what it is that they need to be looking for their specific child. Or if they have more than one child at home, they can enter in that different information. So when a parent enters the name or nickname, date of birth, weight of the child, they will get 5 tips carefully chosen to meet their needs. The system doesn't retain their personal information, so no needs to worry about that or any privacy concerns. But it's really just there as an added personalization to the Ultimate Car Seat Guide that we really think is helpful for parents.
Got it. So that means there are two sites, folks, that I can give you, ultimatecarseatguide.org, and also for the worldwide organization, safekids.org. Tarika Wheeler, Program Director for Safe Kids. Tarika, always a pleasure to hear the latest about how we can save lives and keep our families safer. Thank you so much for joining us on Car Clinic today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's really interesting that when you think about it, the evolution. And as I just mentioned to Tarika, it's important that when you think about a car seat, I don't think hand-me-down car seats are. I really don't think it's worth the risk, because you never know if there's a hinge or a hinge pin or there's just some part of a seat. And as I mentioned just now with Tarika, the fact is that the technology is going faster than a speeding bullet. And I'll tell you, so new seats come out and new cars come out. And when they do, the safety part of that, autonomous cars, what is that about? Safety. Because believe it or not, and I don't know how you feel about this, I've never ridden in an autonomous car, but I've driven a car that had control of the K900 Kia, had throttle and brake controls, and all I had to do was steer it, including stopping and starting and all that. I will tell you, I was blown away, but I had my foot about a half inch off the brake pedal the whole time. I was under the gun there. But it was a fantastic experience that I have to say that I was much surprised, to say the least, at the technology. 888 Car Clinic, I see that Sandy's calling in, so we'll take her call next, or his call. But I want to share with you the Volkswagen Dieselgate update. Do you realize it's a year? Kevin, a year since we talked about this?
A full year, yeah. It seems like yesterday.
It does seem like yesterday. And let me share this with you. Number one, the diesel may be dead, at least in the U.S. Last week, a new VW model began rolling into showrooms, and it was the 2017 VW Golf All-Track Wagon. It's the first new VW to arrive stateside since September 2015, and notably, it's not a diesel. I think that's unbelievable. Now, we'll go down to the second point. The key engineer that was in charge of the diesel and had a lot to do with what was going on, Robert Liang, helped to create the popular 2-liter diesel engine found in millions of vehicles implicated in Dieselgate. Facing a host of fraud and conspiracy charges, he's agreed to spill the beans on everything that he and his colleagues did to skirt the law. And then, so we'll see what happens. But the bottom line is, VW is going to not only say amends and make amends, they're going to pay people to give their cars back. And I'm not sure how that's all going to roll out. I know that they appeared to be stalling there for a long time. The last point that I'll put on this is that I think it's worth sharing. Porsche was sued. Another week, another Dieselgate lawsuit. This time, the lucky defendant is Porsche, which is being sued by investors who say that the company should have disclosed the diesel issue sooner. At stake, a tidy sum of $3.1 billion. So there you have. And then finally, the VW is teasing the EV concept. So you're going to see VW that is going to go toward the electric vehicle, and they're just not going to bring the diesels. Why? The emissions for the United States are so strict that to make a diesel and add the equipment to handle the particulate matter that comes out of burning oil, because that's what diesel fuel is, oil. It's dirty stuff, always has been, soot. So the same engines are maybe a little more efficient, a lot more efficient than they were, but that soot is still a part of the burning of that fuel, like coal oil or a lamp oil. So it's a cleaner fuel that we're going to because we want cleaner air, and in order to do that, we have to move on away from dirty fuels. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to have diesel on semis, because that's a perfect application. But let's go to New York and take a question from Sandy. Sandy, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi.
Hey, I have a question. My husband's 2016 Toyota Tacoma truck, when he goes into work at night and then he comes home in the morning, there's a 20-degree difference in the weather.
Right.
And his gauge is showing it. Should he, at this time of year, how often do you have to put air or change the air pressure in your tire when the gauges are showing such a difference in temperature?
Yeah, that's a good question because we are seeing such a change in day to night temps. What I would do is I would check the tire pressure with the vehicle. I guess this vehicle's garaged, Sandy?
Well, no, it's not. So when he leaves, he works at night, and when he leaves at night, of course, the temperature is different. Lately, of course, it's been warm up here during the day.
Right.
And then he comes home in the morning. Now the temperature's dropping. So yesterday he's like, the truck is relatively new, so he sees this gauge staring at him.
Yeah.
And the tire pressure is telling him,
Yeah, the tire monitor pressure system is a tire pressure monitor system, TMPS, is a great asset. I have mine pops up occasionally, just out of the blue it seems. And what I love about mine is that it will show you which individual tire is low, and sure enough, that tire is low. And then also the gauge says check all tires because it figures that, hey, if you've got one that's lower than the rest, you should check them all as well at the same time. Mm-hmm. What I would do if I were him is I would check the pressure. Let's see when it's most convenient. Well, when he gets off work, I don't know if that's convenient time. He wants to get home. If I were him, I would check the pressure, and I would put the pressure at the maximum pressure that the car will allow. In other words, if the car called for 32 psi, let's see what's a Tacoma. So let's say that it calls for 32 psi. I would bump that pressure 3 psi under the hottest conditions, and then that way, but make them all the same. And I mean, when I say make them all the same, if it calls for 32 in the front and 30 in the rear, then to go to 33 in the rear and 35 in the front. Bump from the specifications that are on the door jamb of that Tacoma, add 3 psi when it's warm, and 3 psi will get you a lot of forgiveness. And I've always, even before we had tire pressure monitoring systems, I've always lived by that belief and that philosophy that because tires don't make air, you're hard pressed to overinflate an automobile tire. Now, the bottom line is, if you do overinflate it, you round the tire out, and you just imagine, a man's belly, and he pushes out on his belly. It's rounded, and that's what air does. When you put load, it pushes in on the belly of the tire. When you add tire pressure, you bring it back up, and then you push more pressure on it, and then you put more weight on it. Of course, the limit of how much weight you can put and how much pressure you can put in the tire, that's the reading on the outside of the tire pressure, and that has nothing to do with the actual pressure that you run in the tire. That's the government and the Department of Transportation. So have him suggest to him through me that he adds 3 psi under the warmest conditions, and see what that does, and call me back just for grins.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Hey, thank you, Bobby.
I thank you, Sandy. Thanks for your call. That was a great question, and because I know that the tire pressure monitoring system is kind of a bugs me to see any light come on, a warning light on the dash. That's about all we have for this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We have another great hour coming up. If you didn't get in, you feel free to give us a shout back after the top of the break of the hour at 888 Car Clinic. Meanwhile, if you're out and about for this Saturday, enjoy your ride, and see you next time, same station. Bye-bye.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemals. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1 minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us today. We're having a great time in the house. I hope that you're having a great time in your house or in your car or wherever you're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. I'll remind you that we come to you every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, although some of our affiliates across the nation air this program at a later time in the afternoon. Lafayette, Louisiana is one particular station. So if you're tuned into Lafayette, or is it Lafayette? It's Lafayette, that's what it is. Well, it depends on who you ask, actually. Then a special welcome to you. We'll try to talk about ethanol today for you folks. We have one particular individual that lives there that actually has a real issue with that, and I know that he does because he's left me several notes and several messages. So one of these days, he may learn that the show is aired live from 10 till noon. That way he doesn't have to leave a message. He can call earlier. So 888 Car Clinic is the number for you to call. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Sign up today for O'Reilly test alerts by texting O'Reilly to 46786. You'll receive O'Reilly Auto Parts online offers, in-store sales, and exclusive O-Rewards deals. Text O'Reilly to 46786 so that you can receive O'Reilly text alerts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day. You and me when I come back.
O'Reilly. O-Rewards Member Appreciation Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts is ending soon. You won't want to miss the store-wide savings and double-point deals on over 225 items. And if you're not already a member, sign up today during O-Rewards Member Appreciation Month. It's fast, easy, and free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices, every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You know, you're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextsStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Folks, we're testing an Intune i2 performance programmer from Diablo Sport, and we'll share feedback and results over the next few months. First is ease of installation. Directions were clear and the setup was easy. The Intune i2 is preloaded with dyno and street-tested performance programs developed specifically for your car or truck, ensuring optimal power and drivability gains. From there, you can then customize a tune tailored to your own performance needs. What a great way to boost power without even popping the hood. Diablo Sport Intune i2 has a fantastic look and now features the latest generation ARM processor for a higher resolution screen and an exceptionally responsive touchpad. You can update your i2 software on virtually any computer. Windows, Mac, Linux, and update times are fast. Even the large updates take no more than 5 minutes. I'll report more to you about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, check out the i2 for yourself at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a face. And Regency Hospice delivers more faces to you and your loved one when life matters most. Faces of nurses, nursing assistants, social workers, and chaplains. Regency's skilled, compassionate professionals deliver comfort and individualized care. When that time of life comes to you, Regency Hospice will be there for you. Go to RegencyHospice.com for more, including Hospice for Heroes Veterans Recognition Program.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Let's see how many editions this would be. Gosh, I don't know. We started this broadcast in 1991. So 2 hours a week since 1991, plus another hour a week locally, plus some the ABC television car clinic, plus Blab Car Clinic. I don't know. It just shows you that there's resiliency there. That's what it is. And you know what's really neat, folks, is I promise this is true. I really like automobiles. I mean, of course, most of you who know me would know that. But I just enjoy the latest technology. I enjoy getting to the, in our business, we call it cause and effect. What caused something to break and what effect did it have on the vehicle and what can you do to correct it? So if a water pump goes out, was the water pump bad? I mean, did it just go bad? Well, sure, over time, all things wear and seals get hardened and what have you. But that's in a terrific environment that it works in. It's a hostile environment, a lot of heat. And you say, well, it's a water pump. Well, nonetheless, there's a lot of heat there and a lot of RPM and a lot of water flow. And also there's a lot of toxic chemicals that it operates in. All the more reason that, and what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is to service your car and to service the cooling system of your automobile, even though the manufacturer might not tell you to do so. It's really important you do so because the pH factor is very important, and then there's a voltage factor as well, and voltage, stray voltage, can really cause electrolysis, and electrolysis really affects the life of the interior of the system, including hoses. If you've ever walked up, if you've ever opened walked up to a car and said, hello, I have. If you ever open the hood of a car, okay, so I'm a little quirky there. If you ever open the hood of a car and you reach to shake the hands of the upper radiator hose and just squeeze it like you're going on a trip. That's what a technician will do, is squeeze the upper hose. Well, why? You can look at it, and if it's not leaking, it's okay, right? No, you have to squeeze it, and to see if it's mushy and soft. That means that it's deteriorated and melting, or softening from the inside, or it can be crunchy on the inside. If it is, the electrolysis, and you're in for problems there. So there are just a lot of tricks of the trade. I won't call them tricks of the trade, but a lot of standard operating procedures, really, that we use in the automotive industry. And so when you take your car in for an oil change, which happens only every 5,000 miles or 7,500 miles these days, and you say, how quickly can you get my car in and out? That oil change is not about changing the oil and filter in that car. That's a given. It's about inspecting the car so it can go another 7,500 miles safely. And if you're on your 4th oil change, you're looking at 30,000 miles. And if you're on your 8th oil change, you're looking maybe, at 60,000 miles. So the more miles and age on your vehicle, the more important the inspection. And we are big on inspections here. So I'll remind you, when you take your car in, don't shoot the messenger. If the shop says you need A, B, C, X, you say, I just came in for an oil change, then ask for a list. You don't have to have those things repaired, but you must know that there's impending problems there. Okay, let's go to Ronnie in South Carolina. You were first in, so you're going to be first up. Ronnie, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for holding.
Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
2004 Camry, my daughter's car. She's a widow.
Okay.
And I look after her. I talked to you a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And late last year, I just had the timing belt changed and the water pump. And,
right.
Tuned up. About a month later, the transmission went out.
Oh.
So I had to decide whether to put a transmission in a 2004 Camry. So the mechanic, he doesn't work on transmissions.
Right.
So he's subbed it out.
Right.
Well, I got it back 6 weeks. It took him 6 weeks.
Wow.
That's a long time,
yes,
isn't
sir.
it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, she drove it maybe a month, and it went out again. Took it back in. The warranty was for a year.
Right.
And he fixed it that time, and it came out and lasted about 6 weeks. Back in again the third time, and it'd been 6 weeks. Still hadn't got it back. And the guy I dropped it off with says, he'd keep telling me we get it tomorrow. And he's a reputable guy. I never dealt with a transmission guy.
Right.
So I went to see him this week, and basically, you'll get it back when I can. He's working on other people's, money makers. He's already got my $3,500.
Right.
So I'm in the accounting business, so I have legal fees built up with a lawyer I've done work for, and he hadn't paid me. So I begged the guy to resolve this thing.
Right.
Both people.
Right.
And they won't do either one. So he's going to put them in small claims court to get my money back. So what's your thinking on this?
Well, which part of it? I mean, here's the bottom line. We look just this week. We have had a customer, a longtime customer, Ted. Let's call him Ted. He's a great guy. He's loyal, and we've seen him more in the last 4 months. And when I say more, he's had more challenges with his car because it's older and it has a lot of miles on it than he had previously.
Right.
And so he came in with a transmission issue, and that kind of was the straw for us that broke the camel's back. So we said, well, and this is a true story. This happened just Thursday or Wednesday of this week. And so I talked to Brennan, who's my general manager, and I talked to Rusty, who is a assistant manager on the floor, and very both straightforward individuals. And they think just like almost as I. Brennan and I are in lockstep. So the bottom line we didn't think it was wise to fix this car, so we went to Ted, and Brendan and I did, and I said, Ted, here's the bottom line. You've been in this, when a car is in the shop more, in our garage more than it's in your garage, it's time to think about getting another car. Now, we felt really guilty about this, or at least give up may not be the right word, but I'll use that for sake of another word. Anyway, so the bottom line, here's what I told Ted. I said, here's what we're going to do. Number one, we're going to check on a used transmission and see what a used transmission would cost, because that will buy us a year's time, because we can get a used transmission with a year's warranty.
Right.
And I said that'll, because the only other option, and this is where you should have gone on the Toyota, the only other option is to get a remanufactured transmission.
That's where I should have gone.
Yes, and I'll tell you about the difference between a rebuild, a reman, and an overhaul, because the rebuild and the overhaul are the same thing. That means you take the transmission that doesn't work, you replace the broken part, you clean it up, and you put new seals and bands and clutches in it, and you call yourself having a new transmission. But it's the same worn transmission you had before. All the materials, all the pumps, and all the mating surfaces are worn. You just only replaced the clutches. So, and granted, those clutches are new, but there are parts adjacent that are worn, and the front pump's worn. So that's a rebuilt or an overhaul, versus a reman. And especially with the company that we used, a reman gives you a transmission that is remanufactured to original equipment specs. But in addition, the remanufacturer upgrades the transmission, because by the time the remanufacturer gets these transmissions, the manufacturer of the transmission, the OEM, the car maker, has modified that transmission because it had some problems. To that end, as fate would have it, this week, the same day, we had a regular customer to come in that had a Dodge Ram diesel. And this transmission had a problem with the valve body. I'll get to that in a minute if I have time. Here's what I told Ted. We're going to check on a used transmission for you. If the only way we can go is to buy a remanufactured transmission, which is the only way that we would fix the car right, the cost would be more than the car is worth.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to buy a used transmission, but that may be expensive too. Well, lo and behold, we searched, and so we let Ted go. Oh, and by the way, his engine was is now using a quart every 1,000 miles. So in 4 quarts, he's 4 quarts low in 4,000 miles, and that really bothered us as well. Because,
yeah, well, my engine is like real good. It's six-cylinder, been oil changed, took care of.
Right. Well, this engine just has given us problems for the last 4 or 5 years, and so we've been sort of eking along the way. But this was, like I say, the straw. But here's what happened. What happened was that the music came up, and Kevin's going to push me out, so I've got a hard break. I'm going to come back and finish the story, Ronnie. And then, folks, because this is worth listening to, don't touch your dial. Give me 3 minutes. Now to our car clinic inbox. Jennifer in Indianapolis writes,
Dear Bobby, my best friend's car just died. Turns out it was the battery, and now I'm wondering if I need a new one too. What makes a battery go bad, and what should I look for in a new one?
Great questions, Jennifer. Corrosion of the positive grid is the #1 cause of battery failure. The positive grid provides the energy your vehicle needs to start. There are many factors that impact the corrosion of the grid, including extreme weather conditions, driving patterns, and age of the battery. In order to make sure you're not stranded with a dead battery, be proactive and have your battery tested after 3 years. Make sure when you buy your next battery, you look for the Power Frame logo on the outside of the battery. Batteries with Power Frame grid technology are stronger and 66% more corrosion resistant. They're designed to be more durable in extreme weather conditions, so you can count on your battery to be there start after start. To learn more and find out where you can buy a battery with a Power Frame technology, go to powerframe.com. Here's an email from a car clinic listener. David writes, What's the amber light on my dash? It looks like a cork pointing at an angle to a picture on the side of the car. This light has been on and off for about a year now, and I think it's time I check it out. Well, David, no time like the present. The light indicates a detected failure that could allow gasoline fumes to evaporate into the air, costing you money in lost fuel and polluting the air. Most common failure that trips the light? A small evap leak, or in other words, loose fuel cap. Besides being tight, the cap must also be in good condition. Fuel caps don't last forever, and poor quality caps don't work well from the beginning. Stant makes a large line of fuel caps that will last a very long time and ensure proper sealing of the system. Stant fuel caps are the only aftermarket caps to include all the safety features of the original equipment cap. Visit Stant.com or ask your local parts store for a Stant gas cap by name.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip.
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. We're talking with Ronnie in South Carolina. And Ronnie, just to recap for those folks who may have just tuned in, your daughter had an issue with our Toyota Camry, and you took it to your regular shop. Then they subbed it out to fix the transmission, and it became a nightmare because it failed again and again and again. And now you're sort of getting the cold shoulder from the shop because he subbed it out, and quite candidly, as you said, the shop owner is turning new work and making money, and yours is just at his convenience, which is not yours, and so you're thinking about going to court now. That about wrap it up.
That's it. I begged the man to come to some meeting of the minds.
Yes, sir.
But no way.
Well, I'll say that you're on the right track, and it's a shame that you have to take those steps and be put through the time and expense and just the issue of the time because.
Well, I've never had to sue anybody like this situation in 69 years.
Yes, sir. It's a shame, and I agree with you. Now let's get back to, and I'll make this short. So okay. I advised Ted. I said, Ted, here's what we're going to do. I said we're going to check on the price of a used transmission. And we'll get a used one that has the lowest mileage that we can get. And we'll get a year's warranty from recycle yards, which they'll give you that extended warranty as long as they know the car or they have a good source for the donor car, okay? And I said, if we can do that for less than half what it would cost to put a transmission in it, then we'll buy you the time. I said, so that's what we're going to do. So Rusty got on the phone, and we found a transmission that we could put in his car, and he's got a Nissan, for less than $1,500, parts, labor, oil, tax, the whole, everything out the door, some $1,470 or $80, whatever it was. And granted, we helped him all that we could on it. We cut the labor, we cut the parts, and because he's a regular customer. So that's the kind of customer that we want, is regular clients. And so we felt good about that, and we explained to Ted, this is going to give you some opportunity to think about it, because we mentioned another car, he really didn't want to do that. He said no. Yeah. He said it's too much of a hassle for me to get another car, and so we're going to do that, but only with this caveat: he has to come in here every month or two at the latest, for us to check the oil going forward, because we don't want him to lose an engine because he was 4 quarts low of oil. So if we weren't faced with a double whammy here, I wouldn't be so concerned. And right. And he's an older gentleman, and he's retired from Ohio, school teacher. He's very, very intelligent, and he depends on us to take care of his car. And
let me add this to it, and I'm gone.
Okay.
I made the check out to the first guy.
Right. He's liable. That's his. The fact that he subbed it out doesn't mean anything. Just for you to know, if you took it to Tom's garage, it didn't make any difference if Tom gave it to Bobby to fix. Tom is responsible for the product.
That's what the lawyer said.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact.
I'm sure I'll get my money back, but I just want to get your take on it.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
We're in lockstep there. You got to let me know how it works out for you, Ronnie.
All right, thanks.
Now, you're welcome, sir. 888-227-2546, Louisiana. Well, how about that? Jeremy, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, sir.
I have a 2009 Chevy Silverado, and it's got about 112,000 miles on it. And whenever I accelerate, I'm hearing and feeling a knock underneath the truck. And if I take off real slow, it doesn't happen. But it seems like the harder I accelerate, the louder the knock is.
Well, let me ask you.
Any idea what would be causing that?
Well, I have a lot of ideas, but I need some more information from you. A knock could be a pinging from the engine, or a knock could be like a drive shaft going bump under load. So is it like something thumping on the floorboard, or is it a pinging from?
It feels like it's coming from underneath the floorboard.
Okay,
like
center,
right under the driver's seat.
Rear transmission mount and or center U-joint support.
Okay.
Or U-joint, but do you get a little? And think about this before you answer. Let's say you're accelerating away from a light. Do you get a little judder in the drive train? And you let off the accelerator, it goes away immediately, or is it a bump, 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 knock, knock, knock?
No, sir, I don't get any of that. It's only at acceleration. I just feel a knock.
Yeah, okay.
You can hear it and feel it, and then it's gone.
I believe that's going to be a rear transmission mount. It could be even engine mounts. But the first thing I would look for, first thing I do is take, here's the first thing for you to do. Take a technician for a ride with you. Do not give the key and turn it over to the service desk and say, let me know what you find. You want to take a technician for a ride, and you want to drive. I want, Jeremy, you drive, you put the technician in a seat with you. And if they, and let me tell you, at 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock for a shop is not a good time. 10 o'clock is a great time. Wait until 10 o'clock. That way they got their morning rush out of the way. And if you know somebody there, you know a Bobby or a Brennan or somebody at the shop, say, can I come by and just take your technician around the block with me? And they're going to say, yeah, sure. And then you show the technician what your vehicle's doing. Now he or she understands what you're talking about, and let them drive then and let them duplicate it. Now you're on the same page. You just saved a half hour of somebody's time, but more importantly, you just saved the lack of communication that exists within the owner of the car and the technician that works on the car, because the technician gets his instructions from the desk, and the desk gets information from you, and you don't know what to tell them anyway because you're not the technician. So this way you've cut through all that chafe, and you've gone straight for the heart of the matter, and that works. So let me know how that works out for you.
Yes, sir. Great advice, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Where do you live in Louisiana?
I live in New Iberia, Louisiana, right outside of Lafayette.
I'm familiar. Hey, thank you so much for your call. Love to hear from you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye now. Well, that's interesting. Let's go from Louisiana to New York, and then, folks, we'll take your call at 888-227-2546. Bob?
Yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you, sir?
Oh, I'm getting better. I've had a couple of knees replaced, a couple other things, but life is good.
Well, is your vet a standard or automatic?
Standard, and it's my son's I'm calling about. He's explained it to me, but I need you to explain it to me.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you had knees replaced, I was going to ask you how you were doing with driving that Corvette.
Yeah.
I mean, can you even get in and out of it?
I'm going to be in about 3 weeks.
Okay. Does he live in New York as well?
Yeah. What happened? He's turned the Corvette into strictly a race car.
Oh, interesting.
Everything. I mean, suspension. He sent the top half of the motor to California and got that all fixed up.
Wow.
The lower half, he went to Mooresville and had a good NASCAR mechanic, and got everything back together.
Mm-hmm.
And he's put water in it, and he looks down, and the water is all run out. And he stopped, and it's corroded all of the fins in the tank. It's a big race, like 4 or 5 inches wide, and he replaced it, but he's been online, and there's quite a few explanations, and closest he could come is it's electrolysis from a couple of dissimilar metals.
Now, wait. Let me ask a question. I didn't catch what part was leaking. You said did you say the radiator?
Yeah, the radiator fins, they rotted right out.
Okay, yeah. So your question to me, what would cause that?
Yeah.
Well, of course, electrolysis could cause it for sure, but if it's is it a plastic tank? I think it is a plastic tank.
Yeah, plastic with the
with aluminum core. Yeah,
aluminum.
Yeah. Well, it's not uncommon for the tank seal to go away, and that is not an indication of electrolysis. That's fairly common. It's more common with Ford products and Ford trucks than it is with Chevy, although Ford water pumps on the trucks last a long time, but their radiators are very short-lived, we found. So the question that you're asking me is if electrolysis caused that, and I really couldn't say because I don't know. You can check it, but the bottom line, just replace it with a new one, and be done with it. I'm sure he's already done that, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, given the fact that he's going to have a racer there, of course he's going to drive this car on the street too.
No, strictly track.
Is it a drag car?
No, it's a road car.
How interesting. Well,
he's racing a lot down at Virginia Motorsport Park.
Well, had this car been on the road course prior to him modifying the engine?
Oh yeah, a couple of years.
Well, that's reason enough right there for the radiator to go bad, because think about the stress and the turning and the stopping and the vibration and all that. In fact, I'm sure there's specific ways to insulate and isolate that radiator from the vibrations over just a standard Corvette mount. I'm sure that he'll look at some of his racing associates, and look at their car and see what they're doing with their automobiles. Maybe he can ask the Mooresville, he can ask that NASCAR mechanic what they do and how they mount their radiators, because if you mount something solid, whatever is vibrating is going to be solid until the engine we know is mounted solid to the frame.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever sat in a car that without any motor mounts, where it's just bolted solidly. It'll jar your teeth out, man.
Well, it's kind of like a ranch wagon in the old days.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, how large is this engine?
Pardon?
Do you know the size of the engine? How many cubic inches?
It's around 700 now.
700
horsepower.
700 horsepower. Wow. Well, that's very interesting. Well, I'm really curious. Maybe you could send pictures, and let me put you back on hold, and Miss Jan will take give Miss Jan your email address, and I'd like for you to send us pictures of that car, and we'll post it on our website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun.
Okay, because the only thing I'm puzzled with is the answer he got off of these sites. They talk about their cars and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 of them had to track it out, and it was a 2 dissimilar metals or something that caused
electrolysis. Yeah, but see, that's what coolant does. It stops that. But again, I don't know that race cars use coolant. They probably do not. I'll put you back on hold, and folks, I'll put you on hold for just long enough to go through this commercial break, and then I promise I'll be back and take your call. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the Ultimax RT43, a smarter tire for a smarter driver. Why do vehicles come with a tire that's rated to 150 miles per hour when everyday drivers don't drive that fast? A tire speed rating indicates the maximum speed a tire is rated to spin before failure to perform as designed. But more than that, as speed ratings increase, tires are designed to perform better during conditions such as cornering, braking, and in emergency maneuvers. That's why you may find a V speed-rated tire on a vehicle that's electronically limited to a lesser speed. For the best performance, replace worn tires with the speed rating recommended by the vehicle manufacturer. The Ultimax RT43 is a stylish, all-season tire designed for a quiet, comfortable ride. And with technologically advanced features like replacement tire monitor and visual alignment indicator, the Ultimax RT43 really is a smarter tire for a smarter driver. Learn more at GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you ride along with us for this hour. And if you just joined us, Miss Jan will take your call, if you please, at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. We were talking to Bob in New York, and his son has taken his 2010 Corvette and made a race car out of it for a road course, which is very interesting. And he talked about the electrolysis and that he had read online where there were certain challenges and issues with cars and cooling systems, and that's true. As I was explaining earlier, when you squeeze an upper radiator hose and it has that crunchy sound on the inside, you'll know that's electrolysis that's caused that because it's damaging the interior of the cooling system. pH levels, that's another challenge that you can have with, like you swim in a pool. If it's not correctly treated, your eyes will burn. And believe it or not, the pH for the optimum pH for automobile cooling systems is in the 8 range. If you get over 10, 9.5 to 10 pH, then you're going to have aluminum that is etching, and you actually can take the radiator cap off some cars that have a serious problem with that. We've seen it many, many times, and you see little aluminum metallic on top of the coolant. And then if you let it drop below 5 to get it in the 4s of pH, or below 6, which it should not be, that attacks the iron. and that causes rust. So there are so many. There's a friendly environment, and and then there's a friendly chemical, just like diesel engines. And so I want to share with you what Mazda has done in a couple of ways here, and then share with you about the new technology that is really going to be interesting. Now, for the Mazda 3, the 6 now is fitted with a G vectoring control. So the system gently reduces the torque to the driven wheels when it detects a steering input. So here you got a car that's four-wheel drive, and you've got four wheels that are pulling, and you turn the steering wheel. And when you turn that wheel, those wheels tend to slip. So this vectoring is going to put more weight over the front wheels in the process. And what Mazda says is that this makes for a better grip on corner entry and fewer steering corrections, which is more fun for the driver and smoother for the passengers. So here you have a car that understands the nature of the forces applied when you're driving a car, and that would, what does it mean for you? Well, it means that you won't get, more than likely, in a case where you might lose control of that car, you won't lose control because the car says, oh, wait a minute, we've got a problem here. Let's change the value of the grip or the power that's going to either of the wheels. So that's really very interesting to me. And they're also working on diesels because of the noise that diesel engines make. And so versus quoting Mazda, I went a step further and checked for white papers. I'm a big fan of white papers. And a white paper is exactly what its name might imply. It's where a credible group like Argonne National Lab or a scientist or any highly educated PhD individual may write a paper on a subject, and then that paper is peer reviewed. And a good friend of mine is Dr. Randolph, Andrew Randolph, who is the director of Chevrolet architecture for Earnhardt Childress Racing, and they build his team of technicians. He has 125 technicians. They build about 700 engines a year for the Earnhardt Childress racer and for other racers, even the competition. And of course, everything has to be as perfectly machined and assembled as possible. And to that end, they don't even use, they don't have humans that crank the machine up for the first time. The humans load it, they build it, they put it together, and then they have they put it on a dynamometer, and then a machine takes over the throttle and reads the load so that you have the same break-in procedure for every engine. Because Tom, Dick, and Harry might bring it up to RPM at a faster rate, and that might have a difference on effect. So they codify that process too, so they try to keep the variables down to a minimum. Now, having said that, here's what Mazda Motors, it's recently been required that diesel engines for passenger cars meet various requirements, such as low fuel consumption, low emissions, and high power, and low noise. And that's where this is really interesting. Get this. The key to improve the noise is to reduce a combustion noise known as diesel knock noise. And so I'll cut through a lot of the chafe here, and just to tell you that the Society of Automotive Engineers, the SAE, which is the International Journal of Engines, they published a paper, and this goes back into 2012. Now this has to do with a later model Mazda release that was sent to me September the 6th, June of this year. But as far back as 2012, in February, the SAE had been working on diesel engine noise to reduce it. And what they did was they analyzed the noise transfer paths from a piston, a connecting rod, a crankshaft, to the engine block, and a vibration behavior during the engine operation experimentally, and identified that piston resonance was a noise source. So in order to absorb resonant engines caused by vertical movement of the piston, they designed new piston pin structure integrated with dynamic dampener, which resonates in the opposite phase to the piston. Now, I bet you there's not a handful of people out there listening that can understand what I just said. But I will tell you, here's the bottom line. Pistons go up and pistons go down. And whenever they go up, there's pressure that pushes them down. So there's a noise. And then you have this diesel that actually just feeds the fuel in, because the air is not a problem. It feeds the fuel in, and you get this burning of fuel in little bursts all the way down. And you get a knocking noise. Well, what they've done, for every push down on the piston, they put a dampener in the pin where the piston is attached to the rod, the wrist pin, to push up. So the first thing that came to my mind is, if you were falling in an elevator at a speed, normal speed in an elevator, and you got just before you hit, if you jumped up, would you crash? Kevin, what do you think?
You know, Mythbusters tested that once, and
Yeah.
I don't think
it makes a difference.
I don't think it makes a difference. But
theoretically,
yeah. But I'm pretty sure the rest of the elevator coming down around you would do the rest of the work, even if it worked.
But if you could launch your body, if you had athletic legs, and you could launch your body in the opposite direction, theoretically you'd be floating in the air. You would stop your descent.
Theoretically, I'm not sure. I don't remember how that turned out. When
I don't either. But I've always thought about that. In fact, I get in the elevators and I think about that now. So you talk about strange. And I say, well, what would I do if this elevator, if it fell? I guess the thing you do is lay on your back as quickly as you could, right? I mean, what would you do?
I would probably die.
No, Kevin, that's not the answer I want. Folks, what would you do? Miss Jan will take your call at 888. Here we are talking about everything but cars. No, we're talking about cars. 888-227-2546. So the SAE has determined that the root of the noise of a diesel piston, which resonates through the block, and they've added ribs to the block, and they've done a lot of, research, is in the pin where the piston is secured to the rod. And so they put a dampener in the pin itself. And I thought about that at first before I read this paper, and that's what prompted me to go find this paper. When I read the Mazda release, I thought, well, what would they do? Would they put an eccentric in the pin, or would they just mount the pin in a bushing of Teflon so that you wouldn't have a solid bushing, a solid metal? And then if that's the case, that Teflon would beat out eventually. So, well, that wouldn't be a permanent mechanical fix. So indeed, they didn't change the metal part. They added a dampener inside the wrist pin. Now that makes sense, because you could have a wrist pin. Now, I don't know what that dampener means. Maybe it's gel filled, or maybe it's, which I'm sure there has to be something that moves in it. Or there has to be something that absorbs the shock, which is the noise. And I guess when you think about ringing the gong show, and then if you were to put a 2-pound bag of sugar on the back of the gong, it'd go thud. It wouldn't go gong. So I guess when you think about it, you could put a dampener inside the wrist pin. I think that's very interesting. It's something that mechanically it's not impossible. In fact, it's relatively simple. You'd have to determine what you were going to be using, and it shows you that they think outside the box. But that's what the SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, and everything and anything about engines and automobiles and airplanes, and I mean SAE is the final word there. So this all started because Mazda had been criticized for its poor in-cabin noise, vibration, and harshness. And NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness, is an evil that all OEMs have to contend with, no matter who the OEM is. Apple, now, well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Apple is talking about buying McLaren, or a possible full takeover. So that's really something that they actually approached McLaren Technology Group over a potential sale of part or all of the company. And the deal could be worth as much as $1.94 billion, and people familiar with the matter explained this to the British publication. Both Apple and McLaren declined to comment directly to the Financial Times and New York Times. McLaren Auto has said it had not discussed an investment with either company. So I think it's interesting, as big as Apple, and of course Apple has some $240 billion in cash. And I know there's a lot of talk now about Apple stock and has Tim Cook. He's done a great job from a cash process, and he's building cash, and the stock is 100% more than it was when he took over. But they lack the Steve Jobs vision for new products. So, and that may be true. In fact, just this morning before I left to come to the studio, I downloaded and installed the latest software for my i6 phone. And I did that only because I like to stay abreast, and I thought maybe there'd be some fix for some things. And sure enough, there are some fixes. But the bottom line, it's interesting to me to see, is Apple going to build a car, you think, an EV, electric vehicle, we know they've been working on it, but there are people that they hired for their Titan process. That's what they named their project, which is to build the electric car. And now those people are leaving Apple, and there are other people taking place. So, maybe that didn't go through, or maybe they've decided to do what Tesla did when Tesla first made a prototype. They actually bought their car from an existing company, their platform. Then later on, they built their own. So maybe Apple is, and I thought about this, and I see what you think about it. If Apple is going to buy McLaren, and McLaren's a high-tech company that builds a limited amount of automobiles, but they have other divisions of that company, so they're very high-tech. Would you buy that company? And if so, if you were an employee of McLaren, would you be concerned that they're going to move the campus to, from the UK to California? And I think the answer to that is no. I think the answer is that if Apple, and of course, $2 billion to Apple is a drop in a bucket. It really is when you consider they got $240 billion. So they buy McLaren, and let's just, consider it. They buy McLaren. They let McLaren exist and continue in its current location with its current employees. So they already buy a company that has all of the employees that they don't have to go out and steal from some other company, because that's what happens. So I rationalized yesterday that's exactly, or that's a possibility, not exactly, because I have no way of knowing, but that's a possibility of what Apple is doing here. And what they're going to do is they're going to use that company and all of their machines and their machinery and their technology and their individuals, their team, to create their own EV car. And then they won't have to start from scratch. They won't have to put together, of course, they have to make a plant eventually, an assembly plant. So I think that's very interesting what Apple is doing, and we'll hear more about that in the coming weeks, that's for sure. And speaking of the coming weeks, every Saturday from 10 till noon, you can catch this program at your local AM and or FM radio station, and I'll answer your car questions. We have some questions about oil. I was going to get into oils today and to get your opinion, but I didn't get around to doing that because there's so much to share. But I thank you for tuning in. Remember that our partners and our sponsors make this show possible for you to get information that you just couldn't find anywhere else, and it's free of charge. And so, granted, we have commercials, like every program has commercials, even public television and public radio has commercials, but we publicize and promote those products that we use in our shop before we ever put them on this program. And that's an advantage that I have being in the business. I'm Bobby Likis. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great week. Like us, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Some say ethanol causes phase separation of gasoline and water in your tank, which can cause corrosion. But here's the fact. Zero ethanol or all hydrocarbon gasoline can suspend about 0.15 teaspoons of water before it separates. E10, gasoline with 10% ethanol, can suspend about 4 teaspoons. That's over 26 times more. And contrary to popular belief, it's difficult, if not nearly impossible, to absorb enough water from the atmosphere to induce phase separation. At 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% relative humidity, to saturate a gallon of all hydrocarbon gasoline would take several months and much longer for an E10 blend. I'm Bobby Likis, calling all technicians with 20 facts about ethanol. Brought to you by the Renewable Fuels Association. Drive to ethanolrfa.org.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake